Alright guys, welcome back for another video on HAIKYU Fly High, and today I am going to talk about my own strategy on how to optimize getting the best coaches. And once I get in the best coaches, what I basically means is this insane RNG hell where you just level up your coach from level 1 all the way up to level 15 to see whether or not you get some lucky rolls in the buff and whether or not you would then keep it or actually dismantle the coaches. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about my own strategy on how to optimize that. So first of all, in order to actually explain the strategy, let's first talk about the two main components. One is the cost of how much it's going to be once you actually level them up, and then the second thing is how much match record do you actually get every single day in order for you to actually allow you to level them up. Okay, so starting off with the first one, what's the cost? The cost is actually going to be quite easy. So basically every single time when you level it up, it's going to cost you a certain number of match record. So when you go from level 1 to level 2, it's going to cost you 3,000. When you go to level 2 to level 3, it's going to be 5,000. And as you can see, every single time when you level up, the cost is going to be 2,000 higher than the previous cost. Okay, so it's very easy to actually calculate the total cost in order to actually get a coach up to a certain level. And the main two I'm going to talk about today is going to be level 9 and level 12. Okay, so just take this number down. For level 9, if you actually want to level it up from all the way from level 1 to level 9, it's going to cost you 80k exactly. And then to level it from level 1 to level 12, it's going to cost you 143k. Now, those are obviously an insane number of numbers in terms of like the number of match records you need to take. However, if you don't actually like the rolls you get, what you can do is actually dismantle them and you'll be able to get some of the cost back. Now, it won't be 100%, it's only going to be around 80%. However, you are actually is able to get some value out from it. So once again, let me just repeat the numbers again. If I actually level someone from level 1 to level 9, it's going to cost you 80k. However, if I dismantle him, I'm only going to get 65.6k. So essentially, when I actually level someone up from level 1 to level 9 and then dismantle it, I will be at a loss of 14.4k. Now for level 12, the actual cost from level 1 to level 12 is going to be 143k. However, if I dismantle it, it's going to be 116k. So the actual loot you'll be making is going to be 27k. Okay, so now that we know what's going to be essentially the opportunity cost of going up to a certain level, let's take a look at how much income or how much match record can you actually get, because then that allows us to decide what level should we stop at. Okay. So what is going to be the main way of you actually getting those match record? It's going to be very simple. It's going to be enjoying competition and you get from the daily rewards. Now I know as you actually clear up the stages, you also get some resources in the process, but those are only one-off. So that's kind of why I'm taking them out of the equation. So from the daily reward, I'm going to assume level 14 because I feel like vast majority of people can reach around that. Now you will be able to get 46k match record. However, you also get some blue and also purple boxes, which you would just dismantle straight away. So in total, the match record you are looking to get is going to be around 50k. And then you also get a random number of the legendary coach boxes. From my own experience, on average, you probably get 2 legendary coaches. Every now and then, you could get lucky and to get about 3. So I'll probably say normally it fluctuates between level 2 legendary coaches or 3 legendary coaches. Okay, so that's normally what you're gonna get. And like I said, the match record you'll be able to get is 50k. Okay, now that we know both the cost and also the income from coaches, we are now able to actually optimize our strategy in order to know where to actually level them up to. So just a recap on everything we have talked about so far. So on the income side, every single day we are able to get 50k match records or around 50k match records, and also somewhere between 2 to 3 legendary coaches. You may also get very, very unlucky and only get 1 coach, but from my own experience, I feel like the average is somewhere between 2 and 3. So I'm just going to say it's in the middle, so 2.5 legendary coaches. So with every single day, 2.5 legendary coaches and also 50k match record, what that basically means is that we can afford to spend around 20k on actually rolling up that coach we meant to get for that day to see whether or not we get lucky with them. Okay, so that's how much we can afford to spend on them. Now let's talk about how much it actually costs. So for level 9, what's going to happen is that it's going to cost you 80k in order to actually level them up. However, if you actually dismantle them, you will be able to get 65.6k back. So in those kind of cases, the actual cost you have losing essentially just going to be delta of the 14k, 14.4k in the middle. Whereas if for level 12, in order for me to level it all the way up to there, it's going to cost you 143k. If I actually dismantle it, I will get 116k back. So the delta I will actually be losing here is only going to be 27k. So with this and comparison to the income we got above, it's going to be quite obvious what's going to be the same, right? If I just level up every single coach to level 9, what's going to happen is eventually in the long run, I'll be building up a surplus. Whereas if I go up to level 12 every single time, I can only afford to spend 20k, whereas every single one of them, I'll be actually end up losing 27k. So this is not going to be sustainable in long run either. So obviously the sweet spot with the most optimal strategy is going to be somewhere in between level 9 and also level 12, and then now the strategy is going to be very obvious. What you should be doing, what everyone should be doing, is that you should be leveling up your coach to at least level 9 for every single one of them. Take a look at the 3 stats. Are they actually anything which is useful for you? If all 3 of them are not that relevant to you, or you just simply don't care about them, then at those points you can just dismantle it straight away. Whereas if at least one of those 3 positional advantage seems good to you because perhaps it's one of the red ones, or perhaps it's very relevant to the position this one's for, or maybe just a very high number, and it actually suits your coach or suits your team composition, then in those kind of cases you will be leveling them all the way up to level 12. Okay, so with this hybrid approach of check in at level 9 first before you then decide what to dismantle, will go all the way up to level 12. In theory, in the long run, you should be able to keep the cost of how much you spend on rolling a coach to somewhere between those 2 numbers, or somewhere between 14.4k and also 27k. And that should more or less break even with how much match records you're actually able to get every single day as well. Okay, so that is going to be the most optimal strategy. Now, there is, however, going to be a slight twist on this, which is the fact that for some people, maybe you don't actually care about every single coach. So, for example, if you only care about club contests, you probably don't care about this receiving coach or for this blocking coach. Or let's say, for example, if you play a quick spiking team, in which case then you don't really care about this one, which is for power spiking, or this one for power spiking, right? So every now and then you may actually get into a situation where there are certain coaches which you just simply don't care about at all. Now, personally, I will still keep those coaches. You can choose to not level them up. However, I personally will still keep those coaches in case your plans change in the future, where you then need to mix and match your team composition a bit more. So I certainly wouldn't dismantle them, just keep it, but you don't have to level them up. However, if you actually get them, but you don't level them up, what then that basically means is the amount you are able to afford on rolling the ones that you do actually care about is going to be a lot more than 20k. And then in those kind of cases, you are then able to actually afford to go up to level 12 potentially for every single one of them. And especially now in the early days when we have a lot of people are going to have far more coaches than match record they are available to have. It's going to be up to you guys to decide exactly what is going to be the kind of the level you want to draw the line. However, from my point of view, I feel like the most optimal one is going to be somewhere between level 9 and level 12. So depending on which positions you actually get, you can then decide where you actually want to stop at. Okay. So that's gonna be my personal optimal strategy for leveling up the coaches. Let me know what you guys think, and also what strategy have you been doing so far with them.